Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all, and today I'm going to respond to some of the comments that I got on my last video. Obviously I responded to everyone who commented because I always respond to every comment that I get, but there were a lot of complaints about the board that I made, and that leads to a wider discussion that I just kind of wanted to have with my audience. So the video was for me to explain the combo that I had found making a Boral board with the new skill and the cards that I was expecting to come to the game. We have two cards get you Borreload, Boral Sword, and Savage Dragon. And I went through the entire combo. I showcased the end board. It does give you Borreload Dragon, Boral Sword Dragon, and the Borreload Savage Dragon. Now, before I get started, I do want to note that this is for the purposes of discussion only. None of the people that are making these comments I have any negative feelings towards. They all have legitimate grievances, which is why they decided to voice their opinions, and all I want to do is answer them. So, not trying to inspire any negative emotions here. Let's see. First up we have, this board looks weak to me, because those Link 4 don't do nothing on the first turn and Savage Dragon will be wasted in opponent's interaction, then you have to negate. If this is all what Rokket can do, then I'm not impressed. Going second maybe, but first turn doesn't look promising. And, do you realize this board is trash or not? Shinobird Stomp It and many other decks too. Yes, the end board is not all that interactive. Now, it is true, and I guess I should have mentioned this in the video, that the skill allows you to summon other monsters besides Boral Sword with its effect. It says, if you control a face-up Borreload Dragon, or if only your opponent controls a monster, play one Rokket monster or one Boral monster with 3,000 or less attack from your field, extra deck, or graveyard face up to your field. So you could play Borreload Furious Dragon or Borreload Riot Dragon from your extra deck or main deck instead of Boral Sword Dragon. Borreload Furious Dragon would allow you to destroy one of your monsters in order to destroy one card your opponent controls. I believe a monster specifically. And then Borreload Riot Dragon will allow you to tribute itself in order to negate a monster special summon. But I personally don't think either of those cards will be better than Boral Sword, because you're minusing your board in order to use either one of their effects. Yes, you do end up stopping your opponent from summoning something or playing something, but then all they have to do is run over your Borreload and your Savage Dragon, and you've lost the game. And oftentimes, since they will have a skill going second that allows them to add extra cards to the board, all you're doing is removing their skill buff, as opposed to actually interrupting their combo or something like that. So it's not like a 1-for-1 is all that effective against modern skills. It's just kind of like taking the skill benefit away. But that's only if you get a chance to interact with it, like if they have to flip it face up. If it's a card like, the Utopia skill, where they get this Utopia on the field for free immediately, you don't necessarily get to interact. Meanwhile, Boral Sword Dragon, now you might be wondering, well, okay, but isn't Boral Sword just straight up a vanilla? No. The reason why I think that Boral Sword Dragon is the best option is because between Borreload and Boral Sword, the board is incredibly resilient against Book of Eclipse. These are two very high attack monsters that both have an effect that makes it hard to destroy them in battle. And you can't flip them face down with Book of Eclipse, which is a commonly played card. Now, yes, you could get Forbidden Dropleted, but most likely when your opponent Forbidden Droplets, they're going to Forbidden Droplet just the Savage Dragon, because they will say that the other two monsters don't have an effect that they have to worry about. And then they will have to try and beat over those monsters or remove them in some other way. Now, Borreload Dragon can't be targeted by monster effects, and Boral Sword Dragon can't be destroyed in battle. This is the point of the Boral cards. They don't necessarily have great interruption, but they are very difficult to remove, especially together. So this is what, my experience playing Rockets has taught me, that, rather than trying to interrupt your opponent if you're playing a pure Rocket deck, you should just make them out your board, and oftentimes they will fail to do so. Remember, you still have 2 cards left in your hand for removal or things like that. But what do those 2 link to even do? Do they even offer? Do they do anything meaningful? I don't think they do much in your opponent's turn. This one continued on for a while. Now there could come something like the Counter Trap, and the deck becomes crazy. The Counter Trap has not been printed yet, by the way. That card is from Burst Protocol, which has not been released yet. No, the monsters can only force in defense and lower attack points, but that's what Rocket monsters do. The update is to give us Savage Dragon. Surprise, the deck from 2018 won't compete very well against decks from 2023. And then I let them know, look, the problem is that we have a release schedule in this game that is very inconsistent. You have cards that are coming out from, this year, and you have cards coming out from 2018 at the same time, and they're just not, designed the same way, so you're not going to end up with a fair fight. Yes, but they have actually good cards and that are newer. The question is, will they give them to us? No, they will not. The box has Fluandereeze, Valance, and Libromancer in it already. They don't have room to print too many other cards. They're giving the bare minimum to make Savage playable, and that's it. Also, the skill explicitly says, if you control Borreload Dragon, play a Boral monster with 3,000 or less attack from your extra deck. So they don't want you to make Boral Shroud or Boral End in your EMZ. They want you to make Borreload. And 3,000 or less attack means Boral Shroud and Boral End can't be summoned with it, since they both have 3,500 attack points. So, for the people who are wondering, is there anything else that we're going to get? No. Very obviously, the skill says, here's how you can make Savage. Also, here's a benefit for making Borreload while you're making your Savage. Okay. Now, for the people who are wondering, okay, so I understand that, Boral Sword, Borreload Furious, and the other one, Borreload Riot, which is a brick, by the way. I don't think that you should play Borreload Riot because it's a ritual monster in your main deck and you don't want to draw it. If I don't want those, maybe I can make something else. Well, here's the problem. The skill says reveal 1 Rocket Synchron in your hand, then add a Dark Dragon monster with 4,000 in total attack or defense. Also, you can add 1 Quick Launch from your deck to your hand. And you cannot normal or special summon monsters, excluding special summons from your extra deck, except Dark Dragon monsters. So you can't, you have to play Dark Dragons only in your main deck. And your starter is to Quick Launch into Rocket Tracer. You could Quick Launch into something else, I guess, and then use the cards from your hand, but that makes your deck a lot more consistent. If you are trying to use the skill to set up your board, you are going to Quick Launch into Rocket Tracer. And as soon as you use Rocket Tracer's effect, you are locked into Darks and only Darks. So there are some other potential Dark extra deck monsters you could summon. For example, let's see. You could Xyz summon Evil Swarm Nightmare to give yourself 2 face-down set monsters. You could summon Steel Swarm Roach if you're worried about Synchro monsters. Maybe Cairn Gorgon Anti-Luminescent Knights would be an option. You could Synchro summon into Void Ogre Dragon. Let's see. Yeah, so that's a few of the examples of other extra deck monsters that you could potentially summon. So you might think, okay, well, why do I have to make Borreload? Why can't I just ignore the skills-free monster and just make a better board with Savage on top of that? Because if you summon Savage Dragon and there are no Link monsters in your graveyard, Savage Dragon does nothing. Savage Dragon's effect is, when I am summoned, equip a Link monster from the graveyard and then gain counters equal to the number of Link rating it has. Then, once per turn, you can remove a counter to negate a card or effect. That's what it does. If you don't have a Link monster in your graveyard, you are not able to use Borreload Savage Dragon's effect. Now you might say, well, the skill could have put Borreload in our graveyard so that we could do that. Yes, but it didn't. We have the skill leaked already. I am not saying what could happen. I'm saying what will happen based on the information that we already have that Konami has already put in their game. Let's see. And then this one is very nice. Looks cool, but you burn through basically your entire extra deck, and it looks like there are plenty of places for interruption when going second, or you get Nibiru'd. Sad face. That is correct, and that is the point of Yu-Gi-Oh! When you go second, you will get interrupted. That's why you set up so much interruption. It is really funny to me listening to Duel Links players be like, well, why doesn't the skill just set you up so that you can just negate interruption when you go second? That's just the environment that you guys are in right now, but I mean that's not how the actual game works. So, I mean, yeah, when you link summon a bunch, that ends up eating through your entire extra deck, and that is a reality of the game. You can't just, it's not like Xyz or Synchro where you can use 2 monsters to make 1 boss monster and 2 monsters to make another monster. When you play a link deck, you are not making 2 different link 2s in passing. You're making a link 3 or a link 4, a link 5 or a link 6. So you will need to link climb. You will need to go into like normal summon, link 1, then special summon something else, then link into a link 2, then the link 2 revives something and it goes into a link 3, and then the link 3 revives something, you go into a link 4, potentially. That is a typical, Cyburst combo, it's typical Malice combo, typical Marincess combo. And you are right, with 9 cards in your extra deck, that will be very difficult to do. Which is part of the reason why, even after 3 years of Reigns being in the game, we've gotten barely any Link decks. Because they understand that the format does not support Link summoning. It's just not good when you don't have the proper arrows, and you don't have enough space on the board, and you don't have enough extra deck cards. This will continue to happen as they continue to go through the game. And if you have an issue with that, then you should change formats. There is nothing that keeps you from changing formats. You can play the real game. You can play the TCG with cards, or you could play Master Duel where you have a full board and a full extra deck. If you want to continue playing Duel Links, you are going to continue to have issues when you attempt to make Pendulum and Links work because of the limited board space and the placement of the extra monster zones. That is a decision that you all have made. I can't do anything other than help you try and cope with it. Anyway, that is it. Now, of course, if you want to play Rockets and you are dissatisfied with this board, again, you can play Master Duel. Actually, it's funny. Before I remembered that Dueling Book was a thing, I recorded an entire video of me playing a full Dragon Link combo in Master Duel yesterday, so I could post that instead and show you guys that. I never uploaded that video because I had the idea to do the actual skill, and I thought, okay, that's going to be what people actually watch. But here is what Dragon Link actually does. So if you're thinking, this board sucks, well, yes. If you have the cards that you're supposed to have, then you can have Boral End Dragon, which allows you to negate a monster effect that your opponent controls, and also revive a rocket from your graveyard, and your opponent cannot respond to that. It also can't be destroyed by battle, card effects, and it can't. Neither player can target with monster effects, and it can attack all monsters your opponent controls. Savage Dragon with 3 counters, and then Bestial Dispater, which also lets you negate one of your opponent's monster effects by shuffling a banished monster from their banished zone into their deck, or you can shuffle a banished monster from your banished zone into your deck instead to destroy the monster when it activates an effect. And then this was a 2-card combo with Chaos Space and Chaos Space, a target for Chaos Space, and Bestial Druisworm. Yeah, that was all I needed. So, I mean, so if you want to play Dragon Link and you actually want to have a good end board, do not wait for Konami to print their cards. They take forever to do that. Just go play the real game, and you can play Dragon Link at its full power right now. Anyway, so that is my response to everyone's concerns about the new box. Konami prints bad decks all the time. Dragon Maids were bad. Mutants were bad. We've had a lot of other decks that have done nothing that have been released this year. So you shouldn't be surprised that when Konami releases a deck that it's bad. That's just part of what they do. There's two other bad decks in the box with Valance and Libromancer. They're just not going to do anything. They are bad decks. If there's a mini box, it will most likely be bait, moving forward. And they're not giving Flu enough cards for it to actually function. So I don't know if Fluanderese is going to be good or not. But if there's any good deck in the box, it will be Fluanderese. So yeah, I mean, just if your reaction to someone showing you how to play the deck and set up the end board is, wow, this is not good, yeah, that's just Duel Links. Whether it's the format or whether it's the fact that Konami intentionally releases cards in a limited way to prevent a deck from being powerful, don't hate the messenger, hate the game. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.